Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present, our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m., with your hosts, Elliot and Reggie. Welcome back to Time for an Awakening. And we're joined this evening in conversation with activist and black radio talk show host legend, Mr. Bob Law. And before we bring on our guest, Brother Law, I want to make a brief statement. You know, I feel blessed to be on the air with Brother Reg and Brother Ralph, my colleagues, in Time for an Awakening. We had a 5-year run on terrestrial radio, and we've been on internet radio now for a year. And I feel blessed to be able to still reach the same listening audience, and probably greater than that when we were on terrestrial radio. But I feel as though, and I want to talk to Mr. Law about this, that ever since October of 1995 and the Million Man March, it's been a concerted effort to shut down conscious black talk radio, and especially after the Gen 6, when our people were mobilized to go to Louisiana to fight against white supremacy. That's just what I believe, but we'll talk about it tonight with activist and black radio talk show legend, Mr. Bob Law, using the airwaves as a tool for our liberation. And also we're going to transition into the need to bring back black power. Mr. Law, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Glad to be with you.
Brother Bob, we're happy to have you on Time for an Awakening with my co-hosts, Brother Reg and Brother Ralph.
Yes, sir. Good. I'm good to be here.
Mr. Law, let's get the conversation started this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Law, a question. You heard how I started out the program and what I believe has been a concerted effort to destroy conscious black media. And I think it really started happening after the Million Man March, when I think that, you know, white folks kind of study us all the time, I believe. We don't spend that much time studying them. But I think that they underestimated our people when we used radio to mobilize over 2 million people in that mall down there in Washington. Because
everybody underestimated.
Okay.
Even the organizers of the Million Man March.
Let's talk about that, because I think, in my mind, and I want you to confirm this as somebody that's been in the business maybe longer than I've been here. Talk about, do you believe it was a concerted effort to destroy conscious black talk media, and tell us why?
There's a conscious effort to remove black thought from what is called the marketplace of ideas, and it's happening all over the country. The Million Man March, everybody underestimated the role that black radio played in the national black community, and even in summing up the success of the march, even the organizers of the march, and I was on the executive committee, the executive organizing committee, even the organizers of the march underestimated, and some to this day still undervalue the role that black radio played really in making the march happen. And the white press began to examine, scold. There's a columnist in New York, Jimmy Breslin, who after the march did a column saying, how did this happen under our nose? How did this happen and we didn't know anything about it? Because what had happened was black talk radio is in the community, wheeling, dealing, but what's called mainstream media, white media, as they do even now, they ignored it. They pretended that black talk radio didn't exist. There was an article on my show, about my show, in the Chicago Tribune. The guy came in from Chicago, spent the night out with me in my studio, and he was just commenting on how the Chicago Tribune felt really good that they had beaten the local New York press to do an article on what was at that time the only black nationally distributed talk show in the country. And they were talking about how the local press in New York had just overlooked it. We tried to get Emerge magazine with George Curry as the editor to do a story on black radio. Took forever to get them to finally commit to do a story on black talk radio. They assigned it to a brother who was in New York, so he listened to black radio in New York, but he didn't listen to all radio. He listened to the talk shows that were on in the daytime and was not even aware of Night Talk, which at that time was the only nationally broadcast black call-in show in the country. And so the article, even in Emerge magazine, downplayed, gave some superficial coverage to Night Talk and talked about the talk shows that were on during the day, because at that time, WLIB AM was a full-time black news talk station. But everybody overlooked and underplayed the power, the reach, and influence of black talk radio. Now, if you remember, all of the black and white prominent political personalities in the country said, don't go to the Million Man March. All of them. The black ones, the white political personalities, everybody said, don't go to the Million Man March. There were, on black talk radio, we said go. Did they go?
Yes.
And so there were people who began to realize that these guys on this talk radio, and this talk radio has more reach and influence than we had imagined. And so definitely there began an effort to systematically eliminate black talk. And it's the same way that other powerful black institutions have been marginalized. So it begins by replacing strident black talk. So they didn't just take talk off the air altogether.
Okay.
What happens is that talk is replaced by meaningless talk. So news and talk shows that were on throughout the day, they come off, but the comedians and the sensationalist talkers come on during the, gossip. Wendy Williams, gossip during the middle of the day. People focusing on irrelevant kinds of manufactured controversial things, put pimps in the pulpit and stuff like that. That comes on. And then the morning shows come with mostly jokes and laughing and pranks. So the audience doesn't notice right away that there's no meaningful talk, because there's still people talking. And they're talking about provocative kinds of things, being on the down low, the other woman cheating on your girlfriend, housewives of L.A. and all those kind of things. That became a substitute for strident, intelligent black talk. But the audience doesn't notice that right away. They're still talking. They're still calling in. They're still laughing and joking without realizing that serious talk is, and the serious talk did not disappear all at once. See, little bit by little bit, until we get to where we are now, where there's no serious talk, there's no strident black voice, and black thought, critical thinking, has been totally removed. See, there was a time when black talk radio, on any given day, you could tune in and you would hear from significant thought leaders in the black community. So you could tune in and you could hear Maulana Karenga. You could hear Chokwe Lumumba. You could hear people, Sonia Sanchez and Leonard Jeffries, and it goes on and on. You could hear from the activists around the country. You could hear from the historians and the thinkers. You could hear from Claude Anderson talking about economic development. You could hear all of that. Now, those voices have absolutely disappeared from regular rotation on radio. There are very few talk radio stations left on commercial radio where people are on the air every day. Carl Nelson is on the air every day in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many other people are doing talk on a daily basis. I know a number of people, brothers who are in St. Louis, who are in Milwaukee, who are in Kansas City, who are in New York. New York is the largest black population in the country. It's the number one market, black consumer market in the country. And it no longer has a black-owned radio station. It no longer, and see the ownership, ethnicity of the owner, according to the research, not just our opinion, but the ethnicity of the owner is important. It does determine content. It determines sensitivity. It does determine what actually gets on the air, and there needs to be a diversity of opinion, even within black radio. When black radio was on every day, not all of the black talk show hosts saw the world exactly the same. Okay. There was diversity of opinion, but at least there were voices, and our ideas were allowed to compete with other ideas in the universe for acceptance. But our ideas are so powerful that white media and white supremacy does not want to have to compete with our ideas. And so what they have done instead is move to consolidate ownership, thanks to the 1990 Telecommunications Act from Bill Clinton, which makes it possible now for anyone to own. Just to break it down, what it says is essentially is that anyone can own as many stations, as many broadcast outlets, media outlets as they want in any given market. Now, that sounds like we're throwing the doors open and now everybody can get involved. But the reality is, who can afford to own as many stations as they want? The standalone black-owned radio stations in Philadelphia can't afford to own as many stations as they want. Walter Lomax, Dr. Lomax, whose family owns one radio station in Philadelphia, they would like to own as many stations as they want, but they can't afford to do that. But Disney can, and Emmis, and Viacom. The mega corporations are the only people in the marketplace who can afford to own as many stations as they want. So when you give them the permission to do that, you allow them to systematically force small, standalone, independent voices into irreversible decline, along with the collusion from the ad industry and the ratings company. So there's the conspiracy was to make black radio, be it talk or music, was to make black radio, black media unprofitable. There are people who are suggesting that it was like in New York City, WBLS, WLIB mismanaged, sabotage from within. They didn't do the right things. That none of that is true. They may have been mismanaged. I didn't work for them. I don't know all the workings that were going on within that station. They may very well have been mismanaged. However, the reason that they went out of business was because they didn't have any money. They couldn't pay their bills. And the reason they couldn't pay their bills was because they did not get paid for what they deserved based on how well they actually performed. The ratings company lied, and the ratings company said that nobody was listening. The ad industry took advantage of that and used that as an opportunity not to pay those black-owned radio stations all over the country. In New York State and in the state of California, the attorney generals of both of those states sued the ratings company and won, proving that the ratings company was using a race-based formula that was inaccurate, that they were knowingly and willfully giving out incorrect information, causing the financial decline of black radio. And so the people who were saying that it's because they didn't play hip-hop soon enough, it's because now some of the things they say are true, that those radio stations did abandon the black community. Those radio stations made a conscious decision to be whatever white folk wanted them to be. And so they stepped away from the black community. They got tricked. They got taken. As Malcolm, you played Malcolm at the opening, where Malcolm said, I want to welcome everybody, our friends and our enemies. Mm-hmm. Well, black radio owners said, We want to welcome our enemies. We think we can outsmart our enemy, and they got taken. And in some cases, we might say they deserve what they got because of how pitifully they performed their responsibility toward the black community. But they went out of business because there was a plan that was not contingent upon how well they treated the black community. Even radio stations that did not abandon the black community also went out of business because they were all made unprofitable. And indeed, it was a deliberate decision, and it happened as a result of the influence that it was demonstrated by black radio on behalf of the Million Man March. That is when the assault on black radio really took off. First, they were just ignoring us. But after the Million Man March, they understood that it was a mistake to ignore us and that they better do something to destroy us. Okay. And that's what they set out to do.
Mr. Law, you have, because you just touched on it, and I wanted to touch on it, but I'll expand on it, and we're talking about on terrestrial level, conscious black talk radio. A lot of the stations have trouble staying on the air. And, you hear the talk in the streets that, our people don't support these stations. But you already touched on the refusal with a lot of these major companies to advertise with black talk radio. But I want you to approach it from this angle, because when we turn on the radio now, and I'm talking about terrestrial radio, you hear all these happy Negro type of shows in the morning with Amos and Andy satires. Mm-hmm. And you don't hear, when they go to commercial break, you hear all types of advertisement. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to, you mentioned Carl Nelson, or the few black-owned or conscious terrestrial stations, you hear limited advertising. Mm-hmm. Talk about that, because it doesn't seem like these Happy Negro shows have any problem getting any advertisers they want.
Well, the reason for that is that even though some of those air personalities make good money, and not all of them do, but some of those guys make good money, but they work for white syndication companies. They don't own and syndicate those shows themselves, and those shows are not syndicated by a black syndicator. And there are blacks who have attempted to become syndicators. But those shows, real popular morning shows, they're owned by Disney. They're owned by Clear Channel. Clear Channel has a syndication company as well. So those personalities work for a white syndicator. The white syndicator sends advertising people into the ad agencies. The ad agencies are willing to spend the money, since the money is going to white corporations. The ad agency wouldn't spend the money if the money is going to black corporations. But it is not their intention to put money into the black community. It is their intention to extract money from the black community. The same way the drug traffic works. Drugs, that's why there's no crack dealers, no guys running up and down the street. The guys that run up and down the street selling crack, do you ever just realize that they stay in the street? It's not like they ever amass any money and buy a condo or buy a supermarket or, the drug trafficking is constructed to extract money from the community. And the same thing is true in the society overall. So the advertising dollars, the Burger King, for instance, that made a decision a few years ago that they were no longer going to use a black ad agency to advertise to the black community. They said that, in the era of post-racism, the Obama era, that it's no longer necessary to identify black, and it's no longer necessary to use black people to reach black people. And so they fired the black ad agency. They gave the Burger King account, which is to target black consumers, that they gave that account to a white agency. And then they announced that now that they have given the account to a white agency, they are going to increase the budget by 30%. So they fired the black guy, hired the white guy, and paid the white guy 30% more money to do the same job that the black agencies had been doing prior. And so it is that deliberate policy, serious policy, that determines inequality in this society. It's not market trends. It's not some kind of phenomena. It's not seasonal. It's not mysterious. It is policy. Burger King announced and instituted a policy that was to eliminate blacks from the receiving end of any of the money generated by black consumers. And it's been policy that has resulted in the decline of black communities and black media and black businesses all over the country.
Brother Long, you talked earlier about the effort by the white establishment to limit black thought and exchange of ideas. But we see just the opposite on the other side. Any weekend we can turn on the television and see Face the Nation or Meet the Press. Every day you hear these shows, and I hate to call their names, but you hear the Hannitys and the Limbaughs all day on these stations exchanging white thought and ideas. But you express the conscious effort to limit black thought and ideas, and I'm mentioning that to tie in with this. In the city where you're from, in New York, it was an article in the Final Call about a radio program that was broadcast out of City College. I think it was an FM station, 90.3, that was forced off the air by a Jewish lobby group because they claimed they were anti-Semitic, and basically because the station had Farrakhan on several occasions, was forced off the air. Talk about the pressure from Jewish lobby or Jewish groups to force a lot of these conscious black talk stations and personalities off the air.
In the case of that radio show, Brother Leroy Balin's radio show, there wasn't, and here's the point, there wasn't any great pressure applied. The university just caved in. It's like nobody yelled at them. One woman wrote in. She was not representing any organization. She didn't write in on behalf of any Jewish constituency or credible Jewish organization. You don't even know if, in fact, she was a Jewish woman. You know, one woman wrote in and said that she was offended by Brother Leroy's radio show because he did a feature that said that encouraged people to read the black press, and then he would name black newspapers that he was suggesting people should read. So he was saying, read the black press, read our Times Press, read the Amsterdam News, read the Final Call, read the Harlem Times. So he names the papers. This woman said that he included in there the Final Call, and the Final Call is Minister Farrakhan's newspaper. So for him to say, read the Final Call, that makes him anti-Semitic. See, now that's absurd. But the university caved in because the university is part of the larger structure that is committed to white dominance and white supremacy. And so they simply took advantage of the fact that this woman has written in a letter, has listened to the show, has made some comments about, and claimed that there were things that Brother Leroy was saying that any reasonable person would have rejected the charge of anti-Semitism based on what she was citing as supposedly anti-Semitic. But the university caved in, and I believe that they caved in because they wanted to. They did it because they are assured, and here's what we really need to talk about. They are assured that the black community is not going to do anything about it. They are assured that there will be no political or economic response from the black community. And so, because, see, Brother Leroy is on a small college station with a 5-mile radius, and they take him off the air. Black community doesn't really say anything. There are other programs that are citywide. There's programs that are national that are also reduced. In New York City, there's other programs that are reduced. The brothers who are on Sunday morning for 2 hours, they have been reduced to 1 hour, 8 to 9 a.m. It's a joke. 1 hour on Sunday. No real response from the black community, although those brothers did confuse people with how they responded. Gary Bird is on 1 day a week rather than 5 days a week back when we were all doing full-time talk radio. No real response from the black community. It is, see, one of the reasons that these things happen is that the people who attack us are confident or comfortable with the idea that they will be able to do whatever they want to do and get away with it. That the best or the most that we will do is walk in the street. We will protest. We have gotten protest down to a science. But you see, there's a distinction to be made between fight the power and protest the power. See, if you protest the power, then you will go in the street, like in St. Louis right now, and you will say justice for Michael Brown. You walk up and down the street in New York saying justice for the Central Park Five. That's protesting the power. But it's another level of fighting the power. How do we engage them? How do we change their behavior? Just walking in the street with a slogan like, no justice, no peace, that doesn't mean anything, because the people who are carrying the sign saying no justice, no peace have no plan to do anything other than walk in the street and go home. What if the people walking in the street were to make a shift and not say no justice, no peace? What if they were to say no justice, no profit? And then what if they were to target? See, we are spending over $1 trillion a year as consumers, and the people who take our money, their policy is a policy of depraved indifference where our struggle is concerned. So they're watching the denial of justice, and while they will take out full-page ads for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, while they will underwrite the cancer walk and the walk against cancer. See, all those things are reasonable and are very worthy causes, but they never identify with or support our struggle for equity in this society. But they are very much the beneficiaries of our consumer spending.
Most definitely. Walmart,
McDonald's, all of those people. You know, the average McDonald's in the black community makes $25,000 a day. And the ones in the black community, they don't make that much in the white community. The food that they sell in McDonald's, we are told, is dangerously high in sodium. This is maybe 8 to 12% meat in those burgers. The rest is gristle and water and chemicals, and they make enormous money from the black consumer, but they don't put money back into the black community. If we're looking at some things that we need, like when you talk about the advertising, for instance, they refuse to spend money. Those major corporations refuse to spend money in black media, but they do spend money in white media, so that the guys that you mentioned, Hannity and Limbaugh and whoever else, those guys, they make a lot of money. But they make a lot of money because the corporations that we support, at twice the rate that white people do, the corporations that we support are very willing to spend money to keep those guys on the air. But they refuse to spend money on black news talk radio. They refuse to spend money in black media and black newspapers and magazines. But they are willing to do that because they are not worried that black people are going to say to them, do what we tell you to do with the money, or we will stop buying your product. They won't, so they're not worried about that. But if we could make a shift from protesting the power to actually fighting the power, changing their policies, using our consumer leverage to influence their policy decisions. That's when you actually fight the power. And so since we are so emotionally gratified by protest and don't feel necessary to fight, then the people who are engaged in this deliberate effort to dismantle everything black, not just black radio, black communities, everything black. That's what they're calling it, gentrification. Everything black is under attack to the point where black people are reluctant now to even say black, which is why some of us have begun to talk about the need for bringing back black and reestablishing black. See, what we need to reestablish in the minds of our own people first is the correctness of our cause. See, there are many black people who don't think that we have a right to be angry. That's why they say Obama should allow people to continue to lie and beat him up and push him around. He can't ever come off like an angry black man. Well, where is that written? What is that based on? How come the black guy can't get angry? You know, the Republicans can get angry. John McCain can get angry. White folk can get angry. But the black guy can't ever come across as an angry black man. Who said that? Well, I never agreed to that. But there are black people, but the media puts that out. Obama puts it out. And so then black people buy into it, and which confuses black people. So that, I mean, in the 50s, James Baldwin said, if the Negro is not angry, there's something wrong with him. And that's true, even now. And so we are no longer so assured of the correctness of our cause. And that is one of the things that needs to be addressed. And if there were Black Talk Radio, these kind of conversations, and the correctness of our cause, the legitimacy of our cause, our, when look at the silly thing. Look, the Republicans say that they want to change the nation's priorities in terms of spending. I heard a guy say that. It's no longer, the money is not being spent on defense. The money is being spent on entitlements. And we have to get rid of all of that money that's being wasted and spent on entitlements. That's where the problem is. You understand what that says? Entitlements. What is that? Those are the programs that go to the American people. They're saying the accessorize and the shelters and the homes for the homeless and homeless habitat and the money for schools and school lunches and the money, that's what they call entitlements. The money so what they are actually saying is that the problem with this administration and the problem with this country is that this country is spending too much money on the American people. It ought to be spending more money on building defense contracts, where the money goes to the mega international corporations who build weapons that we don't even need any longer, and allows them to become millionaires and billionaires using public money. That is a much smarter idea. But to spend money on the American people, that is what they call being wrong-headed. Well, there's no conversation taking place anywhere that says what I just said. There's nobody on the, see, if we were on the radio on a regular basis, I would be saying to Don Lemon on CNN, who are those black people that you keep interviewing who don't have any constituency, who don't have any recognizable organization? I heard him talk to a guy from a group called the Black Sphere. What is that? Who are they? These black conservatives that the media props up as though they are legitimate voices from the black community. We would be on the air saying, if you're talking about Ferguson, Missouri, why aren't you talking to Akbar Muhammad? Why aren't you talking to Malik Ahmed? Why aren't you talking to Amy Hunter? We know. Why aren't you talking to Jamala Rogers? We know who the people are who are on the ground in St. Louis, who live there, and who are trying to help do the organizing. We would be saying publicly, CNN, why are you always ignoring them? But CNN ignores the real people, props up their own constructed leaders as the media is trying to create a new cadre of leaders for the black community. And they get away with it as long as our thought is removed from the marketplace of ideas.
We're joined in conversation this evening with radio talk show legend and activist, Mr. Bob Law. And I want to get Reggie and Ralph involved in the conversation, but let's take a call first. 252 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Edward from Greenville, North Carolina. Good evening, Elliot. Good evening, Mr. Bob Law. Good evening, Reggie and Ralph, to the listening audience. I'm loving what Mr. Law has said. The information that he's getting is so marvelous. It really makes you think. And it is true that we do have a history, as Mr. Law has said, of actually doing nothing when we are when there's an attempt on us to destroy us in various ways. You know, look at Eric Gardner in New York and other situations. The mother that was beaten by the state trooper in California, nothing's being done. And like you said, that they know that. So, you know, as I was listening and thinking about that, and I'm a truck driver, I'm on the road now, it really sounds futuristic, kind of scary. So my question is, first of all, and I may or may not have another, is that what, Mr. Law, do you say that can be done about that? Because I say scary because we're such a divided people. What you're saying is wonderful. So how do we get us to support one another in the way of finances? Because he's so accurate. That's my first question. He may answer everything else after that.
All right. All right, brother. Thank you for your call. Keep both hands on the wheel now. Keep your eye on the road.
I will.
Edward, you had one more call? One more question? Just ask them both, and then we'll get Brother Law to answer.
Well, you know, I mean, it's just basically that, along that line. But thank you, Elliot. But it's basically along that line. But to say, with the corporations refusing to support us, and with the ratings being lined, everything that he just said, how do we get us to come together? What can be done in the future? And what does Mr. Law see as far as the future as the way it's going now?
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for your call, Edward.
Thank you. I'm listening. All right.
See, what I'm saying that we now have to make a shift in strategy. We have to start to discuss and make it clear to the activist leadership and to our people. Let's make the distinction between fight the power and protest the power. That's one discussion. See, there's no national discussion going on in the black community. There's a national discussion going on in the white community where they are talking about white dominance. They talk about the freedom to have guns and kill people. They've got some national conversations that are being launched by white talk radio in particular, as well as the white talk shows, the Fox Network and CNN, and those people who raise really loaded questions. You know, the function of the media is to manufacture consent, is to create an atmosphere that allows the power brokers to do whatever they want to do with the consent of the general public, because the media has characterized certain people as good guys, certain people as bad guys. They say what is right, what is wrong. And so we need a media. We need a voice. We really, in this generation, we really cannot be without a voice. But without going off too far from his concern, it is one that we have to begin having these national dialogues, this conversation, but more so, or just as much so, we have to make a shift in strategy and move from protesting to actually engaging the opposition or engaging the power, fight the power for real, and use our leverage, both our economic leverage and in some cases our voting leverage, use our leverage to influence policy. And the leadership, it will require leadership stepping up and saying that, and let's make a shift in strategy. I know that in Ferguson, Missouri, there are people who are talking right now about launching a no justice, no profit campaign there. What they are saying is that what has just happened and the way that the media and the state has responded, the way the police have responded, the way the public officials have responded, the the way that the media, again, has characterized what's going on there and try to give some credibility to what the policeman said some months later, coming up with some evidence that was never mentioned before. That what that did was it made it clear to young people in particular, but to a great many people in St. Louis, how unprotected we are, how vulnerable we are. Made it clear that we have to now mobilize our own resources better and more effectively in order to protect ourselves. And so what they are saying is that now everybody has to stand up for justice and equity for black people in this country. And everybody, J.C. Penney, Walmart, McDonald's, everybody that we spend enormous dollars with are now going to have to stand up and support us in the way that they support other issues of social justice or public awareness. They're going to have to step up now and support us as well. And one of the ways that we will convince them to do that is by becoming more disciplined with our own consumer dollars and by using our $1 trillion more politically, making where we buy and what we buy a political decision. So they're talking about launching a campaign right now called No Justice, No Profit, and asking people not to shop in St. Louis, asking people in St. Louis not to shop on the day after Thanksgiving, the biggest shopping day of the year, when people who hold us in contempt and people who are criminally indifferent to our struggle are expecting our money to get them out of the red and into the black, which is why they call it Black Friday. We need to make it Black Friday for real and make it a demonstration of black solidarity. And that's only step one. And if we can get black people to exercise that kind of economic discipline and get black people to become conscious consumers, then we say, after that, now we're going to move on to the next target. The next target might be the young people in Ferguson, Missouri have already shut down Walmart on, I think, 2 occasions. The next target might be Walmart, then McDonald's, then whoever else they select. But they're talking about creating a strategy now where all black folk will be able to participate and use our leverage, our economic leverage, more strategically. See, that's going to fight the power. But if you just walk up and down the street saying justice for Michael Brown and never call for any kind of action, so what they're talking about now is calling for an economic action. And if you can get black folk to hold on to their dollars and for strategic reasons, see, the next thing will be to get them to turn that money of our own dollars back into the black community much more so. But we are allowing people to just get away with too much, so that you have talk show hosts that you mentioned earlier who are saying whatever they want to say, talking about anything. They lie. They promote white dominance. They promote white supremacy. They distort. They lie. They're dishonest. They're corrupt. And they get paid very well by the same corporations who refuse to spend any money with credible black media. We can't tolerate. We can't let that happen anymore. And that's where the no justice, no profit strategy begins to kick in.
Let's go to 915 area code. Reg, jump in here after this caller. That's 915 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from? 951 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Oh, my name is Charles.
Oh.
Am I on the air?
Yeah, say that again, Charles. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Southern California.
How are you, Charles?
You know what? I feel like I'm becoming radicalized. It's definitely time for an awakening. I really appreciate the knowledge that this brother is dropping, and I've also been, my eyes and my ears have been open to another guest that you had on your show, Brother Amafika.
Okay.
I hear really strong messages, and they're amicable solutions. But again, I also hear the clarion call of how do we make this happen? I was at the Million Man March. I was moved, by that event. But it seems like the motivation died on the vine. There was like no follow-up. And then the follow-up is so scattered. How do I motivate these young men with sagging pants? How do I prepare my 6-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my 2-year-old, and my 30-year-old to prepare for what's to come? So, Brother Bob Law, and Brother Amafika, what the message is awesome, but how do we come together? Okay, I'm not marching. You know who I'm talking about. I mean, this whole thing about peaceful protest, it hasn't worked. It's not working. I'm not saying to get your gun and let's hit the streets, but something's got to give, and I'm frustrated. I am so frustrated, and I'm ready to put some capital to someone. I heard someone make a recommendation. We don't need a leader. We need a conglomeration. We need, say, 12 leaders, 6 who have more militancy, structure, organization, 6 who can bridge the gap between communication and in white media, who can cross the aisle, so to speak, but not just one person. There's safety in numbers, there's power in numbers. And the brothers that I've been hearing over these last 6 months that I've become militarized, I'm sorry, I don't mean to use that term, but you know what? I'm ready to do something. I'm ready to do something.
Well, Charles, let's get some response, and I know that Brother Reg want to jump in on this too, but let's get some response, Charles. And listen, thank you for your call, and make sure you call again.
I sure will. Bless you, bro.
See, that's why I'm saying that there's a need for another strategy. The brother says I'm not marching, and one of the reasons that he says he's not marching is not just apathy and people just don't want to march, but people are not seeing the connection. Because, see, it looks like the civil rights movement. The protest movement looks like the civil rights movement, because in the civil rights movement we marched. But when we marched, the march was not a march for the sake of marching. It wasn't a march unto itself. The march was in support of a political goal, a political agenda. It wasn't just calling for justice for black folk in Birmingham, Alabama. It was a march. The marches had to do with voter registration, and it wasn't voter registration so that you could vote as your civic duty. It was you need to vote because we have to get Bull Connors out of office, and we want to elect a black mayor in Birmingham, Alabama. So we are clear why we are marching. And so while we're marching and giving out literature, the literature wasn't just saying justice for Birmingham. The literature was saying get rid of Bull Connors, elect a black mayor. The civil rights movement was focused on some very specific things. Later on, with the black consciousness movement, one of the things that we said with the black consciousness movement, as we were marching and we demonstrated and we put pressure economically, politically, as much as we could, we said that it's time for black people to own black radio stations. So we're not just out here talking about justice for black New York. We're out here saying that the black radio stations in New York are all white owned, and they at this point in time they should be black owned, and that's what the pressure was for, and that is how the white owners of those stations ultimately gave them up, even selected some black people that they approved of to receive those radio stations. But the demonstrations were part of a movement that had its own clear agenda or goal. Now what we have is marching just to be marching, and it's in a general sense because, see, the marches are correct. We cannot tolerate injustice. So when something happens, the murder of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, we have a need to make it clear to society that we disapprove, that we will not tolerate that. But what I'm saying now is that marching across the Verrazano Bridge, marching in the street, may not be an effective statement of disapproval. What if we say there are some other things that we will do? We will no more business as usual. See, when you walk in the street and you say no justice, no peace, doesn't mean anything. How do you mean no peace? What peace are we going to disrupt? And the marchers say that, and walk inside the police barricade that the police have set up to make sure that the marchers don't interfere with business as usual. What if we got serious about this no justice, no peace, and we said, as I said earlier, no justice, no profit, no more business as usual? Then look at the political arena and look at these black politicians and these white politicians who have failed us so miserably. Why do we
well,
they do it because they know that they will be easily reelected. Most of our people are not even participating in the process. The black politicians come around with these crocodile tears on a regular basis about, oh, we have to get involved. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. They're lying. They don't intend for you to vote. That's why they don't do voter registration. They are not interested in empowering the black community. They're interested in keeping their job. They're not interested in increasing black political power, because if they can keep black participation down low, then that means there are fewer and fewer people that they have to respond to, fewer and fewer people that they have to deal with. So people get. I know I'm running out of time.
No, you're all right. But I want to I want to get Reg in here.
I know I got to go in a minute.
Oh, well, hold on a second, Brother Law. Let me get Reg in here because he been chopping at the bit. Brother Reg?
Okay.
Yeah, Brother Law, good evening.
Good evening.
I got a couple questions real quick. I'm down with everything that you're saying. It's logical. It makes sense. I just want to put something out. I know that when you're talking about economic boycott, we have a lot of black people that are gatekeepers to white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them knowingly, some of them unconsciously. Mm-hmm. And I always parallel that to fear. What kind of conversation would you have with a black person that has a job inside of a Walmart during any sort of boycott? Because that's what I see as the major issue, that we have a lot of black folks that are fearful of the impact that it will have on them personally. And mm-hmm. then we don't usually have that conversation about a sacrifice. If you're going to boycott something, or have or remove yourself from something, you're not going to remove yourself from it for one day, mm-hmm. 1 week. It might be something that might have to be prolonged. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the strategy has to be, how far are we willing to go for our self-respect and for our children? I just want to get your ideas and thoughts behind that.
It is certainly a legitimate demand on our part that the people who work there be part of the struggle for self-respect and dignity, because there was a time when they couldn't even work there. And they were not part of the generation that opened those employment doors. Other people fought the fight to make it possible for people to get into those positions. One of the things I say very often is that in 1984, when Obama ran for the presidency, Obama didn't have to raise certain kinds of questions. He didn't have to say, where are the black reporters? When the press comes to cover this, he didn't have to say, where are the black reporters? There's a bunch of black reporters already there. See, there are a lot of issues that people say Obama doesn't have to say. But one of the reasons that Obama didn't have to raise certain kinds of issues is because in 1984, Jesse raised it for him. Jesse said in 1984, where are the black reporters? In 1984, Jesse went into those corporations like Walmart and Pepsi and said, where are the black presidents and vice presidents? So by the time Obama ran, he didn't have to raise those kinds of questions that make white people uncomfortable, not because white people had already changed their way, but because the black consciousness movement had already raised those questions for him. So those black folk who work in those corporations, they don't get off the hook. that they allowed us to raise the questions, fight the fight, create the opportunities, open the doors for them. Now that they are there, their responsibility is to identify with the struggle that got them there in the first place. And the other thing, though, has to do with the goals. Say that there's young people in St. Louis do decide to shut down or boycott Walmart. It becomes a question of their demands. See, in those demands, you can say, we want you to spend money with black ad agencies again, putting money back into black media. Well, the black folk who work at the ad agency now have a job again. The black owners of media now are receiving money. So they are part of the black people who benefit from this initiative. It's not like all black people are going to suffer. And then the black people who work at Walmart, one of the goals can be, or the demands can be, you've got to put some black people, 2 or 3 or 4 black people, in a meaningful policy-making position. Because the black folk who work in those corporations now have long titles like Director of International Intercorporate Communications. That's a real title. I believe that's a title they have at McDonald's. There's no, or a title similar to that. It's no real, it has nothing to do with running a company. It's a public relations kind of job. It's a public affairs director job. They have nothing to do with the bottom line. We had a meeting with 3 black women from McDonald's who came to the meeting saying that they are policymakers, they are big-time executives. We said, we want you to spend money with black media. They couldn't respond. We said, how much money does McDonald's spend annually in advertising? No, we said, how much money does McDonald's currently spend in black media? They said, I have to get back to you on that. Well, we said, well, how much money does McDonald's spend generally in advertising? They said, now I got to check that figure. I have to get back to you. They didn't know. You understand you can get that yourself tonight if you Google it? You can Google that information. That's not even secret information. These are some people who had no real knowledge of how the corporation works. There's some other research that says that the location of a fast food restaurant is not based on income. The research says that the location of the fast food restaurant is based on race. Yeah. That race determines where to place it, because black people, ethnic groups, spend X amount of dollars per group on fast food. And if you want to get a lot of money, put a fast food restaurant in a black community, regardless of income. All black people, poor people, working class people, middle class people, all of them take their children to McDonald's. But these women said, oh no, we don't do that. We just look for a good location. They have no idea about how that company operates. So one of the demands could be put some black folk in a policy-making position for real, so that the black people who are already there will begin to benefit if we can make that company more equitably, if we can redistribute the power in that company more equitably. So everybody really stands to benefit. The people who work there should not raise any issues in an effort to be a buffer between the community and the corporation, because ultimately they will benefit, as will other groups and businesses and institutions in the community.
Brother Law, before you leave the program this evening, your track record speaks for itself. You've been working in the community and on air to help our people for a number of years. Tell our listening audience, in 2006, when yourself, James Klingman, Brother Amafika, and Dr. Claude Anderson went to Detroit to deal with the idea of the Maroon City Project, or the Africatown Project, and you were kind of rebuffed by black political leadership, because Detroit at that time, that was before a lot of this financial crisis hit Detroit, and you still had a lot of black leadership there. Now they're under emergency manager. But did that take a lot out of you? Did it? You're human, so I know it hurts you. But talk about that a little bit with our listening audience.
Well, no, it didn't take anything out of us, because it didn't take anything out of me.
Okay.
Because I understand that we're involved in a struggle. We're involved in a fight. And as Paul Robeson said, in this battle, there's no rear. There's no place you can go back for rest and recuperation. The front line is everywhere you turn.
Okay.
And we know that there's going to be opposition and resistance. One of the women, black woman, elected official, I believe she was on the city council, who voted against it, said that she just could not do anything for a black initiative. You can't do anything just for black people. It's got to be multicultural. It's got to be for everybody. Otherwise, she can't support it. And I think she said that she had adopted a Vietnamese child, and she's into multiculture. And see, that's one of the positions that has confused black people, and that's why we need to have these conversations about the legitimacy of our cause, of our being concerned about our people, and about our being concerned because black people are the primary targets and the primary victims of the racial hierarchy in this society. And to deny that is extremely dishonest and harmful to black people. But people were struggling with that at that time. But as it turned out, the woman was lying. The woman wound up being indicted. I'm talking like 14 indictments by the FBI because she was funneling money under the table to a particular white developer. And she was simply trying to protect his territory. How many other people on that council at that time were doing the same thing? I don't know. But there's a level of resistance that we just have to understand is going to exist. When we go places and lay out a plan, one of the things that happens that is sometimes discouraging is that some of us will go someplace and lay out a plan, and the plan sounds really right and it makes sense, and then we become frustrated when our people don't seem to understand it or the plan does not take off. But we have to be clear, as we now know about Detroit, that there was a lot of corruption and a lot of underhanded things that were going on. And it was not just Kwame Kilpatrick, although he was guilty of some really crazy things, but it was not him. Detroit's economic decline as a result of corporate policy, taking jobs out of the city. They didn't stop making Buicks. They didn't stop making Fords. They just stopped making them in Detroit. And having the press ignore that, taking jobs out of the city, outsourcing the jobs into other countries, taking advantage of an unorganized labor force in Asia and other parts of the world where workers were not organized, workers had no rights. You didn't have to pay insurance money. You didn't have to pay health care. You didn't have to do vacation pay. None of the things that the labor movement had accomplished in this country exist in a lot of those other countries. So rather than treat Americans fairly, American corporations would rather take their production out of the country rather than treat Americans in a fair and equitable manner and take the jobs someplace else. That is one of the things that began the economic decline in Detroit. Its base for money was coming from the auto industry. And as we see, the auto industry, based on mismanagement, they screwed up a lot. They had to be bailed out. When they got bailed out, they didn't put the manufacturing back in Detroit. And then came Kwame Kilpatrick, and he was an amateur, and he didn't know. And it's not an excuse for him. I'm not one of the people that says, the white guy was stealing, so why can't the black guy steal? I'm not down with that. But the problems is as a result of policy, the kinds of decisions that the power brokers make. That is why we have to look for where is our power and use that power to influence policy in the best interest of the black community.
Brother Law,
I got to go.
I know it. Brother Law, I want to thank you for spending some time with us. I'm going to look forward to you coming back on again because there's a lot of issues that we could use your advice on, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, now. Thank you for having me.
Peace. We're going to take a brief break, and I want to reach out to, if Brother Amafika is listening out there, to give us a call. The caller from Southern California talked about some strategies moving forward. He said he was moved by you being on with us, and I know a lot of times you do listen to the program. So if you're out there in the listening audience, give us a call. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll go into open forum. We'll take your calls. So, and we did have some calls that was out there that we couldn't get on while Mr. Law was on, but you can call us at 215-253-60 7263. That's 215-253-7263. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Time for an Awakening, and we were joined this evening with by activist and radio talk show host legend Mr. Bob Law. He had to leave, but we're going to move forward with the program. We'll go into open forum. We have two callers on the line. I think Brother Amafika has joined us. Brother Amafika, you out there?
Yes, I'm here, good brother. How are you this evening?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Let me go to a call. 215 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Is this me, bro?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Mo calling from North Philly.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, man. Everything that Bob Laws was saying, I told them idiots on word about boycotting. If you ain't going to shoot them down, shut them down. That's the only way to really deal with them, hit them in their pocketbook. But it seems like a lot of black people trying to invent the wheel. I told the brother over 80 years ago, Elijah Muhammad set the blueprint. You ain't got to join the nation. You ain't got to convert to Islam. But look at his blueprint. They took their children out of public schools, and they went to the police station. They would rumble to the cops. The cops shot at them, but the Muslims in there, Elijah Muhammad kicked them crackers' ass in the police station. And he pulled pennies together, and he built Muhammad University Islam schools from coast to coast. Here you got all these educated Negroes with degrees, and they begging white people for money for their schools. Look at Walter Palmer. Look at them. And what they're doing, it seems like they're setting these charter schools up with these Negroes and taking it away from them. And then white corporations will come in and run the schools. And like I told that Nigerian Negro that come on Saturday, I call him Mammy Mecca because he had like a mammy on a plantation. He always bragging about him being a lawyer, his degree. I told him, he said, education is not the key. The key is unity. Elijah Muhammad united the lawyer with the street sweeper, the waitress with the doctor, the scientist with a construction worker. We got to come together as a people and unite and stick together, and don't be ashamed of being black. Don't counsel to them damn Jews. Don't buckle down to none of these stinking devils. If we boycott these major holidays, we can shut these bastards down, man. And I'm sick. You got all these old bootlicking Masons and Shriners and Eastern Stars and these Negroes and these college attorneys. They nothing but boule advisors to the king, buffers between the masses and the ruling classes. They got to be stepped to because they're more dangerous to us than AIDS, Ebola, or black-on-black violence because they sit on the radio and tell you there's no such thing as a conspiracy against black people. If there was no conspiracy, we wouldn't be here in America. Some devil conspired in Europe to kidnap us and bring us here to this country. And I don't care what nobody says.
Mo, I want to ask you something. This is Brother Ralph. But
yeah.
Do you know what you're battling against? You're battling against a severe case of Stockholm Syndrome. That's a mental illness, brother. So
I know that.
And just getting mad at it, I mean, I know, I tend to get mad myself when I hear it, when I engage in conversations with it. But it's a mental illness called Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, I understand that.
And it's got to be treated. You got to actually sit these people on the couch and get to the root cause of it. But, this is my example exactly of what you're talking about. Now, the town that I was born and raised in had a population of 15,000. You have a church up here with a population of 14,000 people. They have teachers. They have educators, they have educated people, they have contractors, they have enough talent in this building to build their own community and set up their own schools. But they believe the solution to the public schools not shutting down is just to pull a lever for a man who backed the racists back in the day by the name of Wolf. Now, that shows you the mental capacity of our people. Instead of them going out there and building their own schools, doing for self, they'd rather just pull the lever and say, I've done my civic duty of pulling the lever for a man they know nothing about. See, that's what we're up against, brother.
Yeah, but
it's
see,
a mental illness.
Yeah, I understand it, but see, brother, the point is here. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that's what needs to be done. But you're dealing with it, come back down to these damn Masons and Shriners. And the job of a Shriner is one who guards the dead. He's not posted at a cemetery physically guarding the interred bodies there. He's posted in the pulpit, and he's guarding his congregation from any light entering his mind. So he keep them in a mental grave of ignorance so they never rise out of that grave. Because once they rise up, they're going to take that crack of Christ off the cross in the church and string his ass up there. See, I'm to the point now, brother, I'm not sitting down on the couch talking. Some of these Negroes need to be put up against the wall and shot the hell down. They're traitors. See, one thing about those so-called Jews, they deal with the enemies and the traitors. Look right here, this new family of leaders. How you have family of leaders that filled up and put that old Hank of Ed Wilson good up there after he murdered black people by dropping a bomb on them? See, these niggas got to be dealt. See, back in the day, in the 60s, they was dealt with physically. A brother I met when I was working with the city, but was from down south. He told me, he said, man, we organized a boycott down there. If you cross that line, you got your ass whipped. And that's what got to be done, but we don't want to do it. You're not going to talk to some of these hard-headed Negroes. Only thing they're going to understand is Louisville Slugger or Colt 45. They got to be dealt with. Simple as that. They are traitors. And see, that's why, look at all these Negro politicians. There's no way you're going to tell me they didn't know these schools were going to get shut down. When you follow the money trail, they done took money from these white developers, man. And that's all over the country. And some way, you know, they got to be checked.
Mo, I want to thank you for your contribution, brother.
All right.
773 area code. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Brother X. I'm calling from the most racist city on earth, Chicago.
I got ready to say which one is that, Brother X?
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of competition in that, brother. I've been listening to you all for a while. Now all of you all, every single person on the Black Talk Network, I admire you. I love you. I appreciate what you're doing. You had the only real open forum that I truly know of. Now, Bob Law mentioned boycotting. There was a time for that, but that horse has left the barn never to return. Boycotting was a weapon when the great white fathers was constructing this empire. That time has long passed. They don't need us for no business or no money. They coming to exterminate us. Just like one of the promos you run on your station. That brother is right. That man don't want to look for no business from us. He's looking to eliminate us. So boycotting is gone. Now, Marcus Garvey, and you all know it. You all are well aware. Garvey said in the 1920s, if we do not go back and reclaim Africa, the motherland, for us and the Africans, he said they was going to exterminate us here, and then they was going to exterminate the Africans. This is exactly what's happening. Garvey said our salvation lies in Africa. Imagine a black man in 1920 talking like this in America. Blacks being lynched in the street, castrated. This bad black man got the knowledge and courage and the foresight to see you must go back home. And the Negroes went against Garvey. We ain't gonna never see the light unless we can go back and reclaim Africa. And I'm not telling nobody to go do it. I'm just letting you know. There is no victory in the lion's den. What is victory here? They run everything. They wouldn't let us have no town. They stole all our inventions. I mean, they held you back. How you going to catch up? Now, I do agree with some people who are trying to fight for reparation. I do agree with that. Because you'll never catch up when people have held you back the way we've been held back. But I see no victory in this land. I would tell anybody who got the money or the opportunity, or they got some grandchildren or young children, you got to get them out of here if you can. They are going to slaughter us. Amos Wilson said, as we go to the highest levels in this land in politics, police, he said we're going to be shot down in the streets like dogs. Look at what's happening. That Uncle Tom in the White House, Uncle Tom Attorney General. Now he just brought in another Uncle Tom woman talking about the rule of law in America. What a joke. We being shot down in the streets. And this Uncle Tom go murder Gaddafi. Negro leadership here don't say nothing.
Brother
He
X.
all over in Africa with soldiers, drones. And they running that game like they don't like Barack Bush. Bunch of BS.
Brother X, I want to thank you for your contribution, brother. Don't be a
Brother,
stranger.
thank you. And I get a chance, I'm going to call you again. And I just appreciate you and love you and keep it up. And when you had Bob Law on, they kept cutting you in and out. Maybe every 15 or 20 seconds, they would stop the show and get cut back in. But the devil is busy, brother. And that promo you wrote, that brother talked about extermination, we better pay attention. Because that's the phase we in. And much power to you, brother, and thank you.
Thank you for your call. Brother, I'm a figure.
Yes, sir.
You hear the emotional response of our people. And, you know, it kind of ties in with what the brother talked about from Southern California earlier. You know, our people are looking for direction, especially after this stuff that didn't happen Tuesday where they see where all of the, especially folks that have faith in this system that we live under, they see that the House and the Senate and most of the governors now did all turn Republican. So now they're looking for somebody. They're looking for something. And, you know, we heard the suggestion of a few of the callers that was just on. But none of these things can be possible without some type of unified voice. You know, you were on our program and you spoke about the need of establishing an agenda for our people and a unified voice. And I think that's what the brother had called about. I knew you were out there listening. And you could touch on it again for our listening audience. People that didn't hear you on before. I'm glad that you're with us this evening to spend at least the next we got about 25 minutes left in the program to kind of recap what you were talking about and show the need now for our people to develop some type of strategy where we can speak with a unified voice with a specific agenda.
Well, thank you again for that reach out, Brother Elliott. Yes, I was listening. In fact, I was listening from the outset, so I heard all of what Bob Law, you know, was sharing with your audience, and also I, of course, heard the comments from the various people who called in. I was hoping that Bob would touch on the fact that it was he, in fact, who created what we now refer to, Jim Klingman and I, as the movement to bring back black, and also to the Nationalist Black Leadership Coalition. The name was actually conceived by Bob, though at that time we referred to it as the Nationalist Black Leadership Council. Mm-hmm. And then Jim Klingman suggested that since we are looking for our people to coalesce around their commonalities, that we should perhaps change the council word to coalition so that people wouldn't feel that they need to give up their own organizational affiliations in order to become a part of this new organization, that in fact entire organizations can choose to affiliate with this movement to bring back black by becoming, by coalescing, shall we say, with the NBLC. It's interesting that your most recent caller commented on and spoke about and mentioned the name of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey on several occasions. And I would want to draw that brother's attention, as well as any others in your audience, to one of Mr. Garvey's statements from his Philosophy and Opinions, which I love to restate to people as often as the opportunity presents itself. And that is, he said to us that the most effective weapon used against the Negro, which is the term they used back in those days, of course, is disorganization. The most effective weapon or tool used against black people is disorganization. And as you know, I tend to interpret that to mean the lack of organization. So while it's one thing for people to express extreme concern, or varying degrees of concern, I should say, about the condition of our people relative to other folk in this society and in the world, it's another thing to recognize the wisdom inherent in those words from our ancestor, Marcus Garvey, and that is that if we are to be serious, I should say, about bringing about a change that will benefit our people, give us an opportunity to uplift and advance ourselves, we cannot do that in the absence of organization. So if, in fact, and I would restate my call and challenge to the members of your audience who are serious about wanting to not only see some change that is beneficial to us happen, but I want to be a part of bringing that change about, that there is a mechanism out there and available, and it's been reinstated now, thanks to some things that have happened recently, and including but not limited to this abject failure of the Obama administration to do anything in 6 years to assist black people in overcoming the conditions that we find ourselves in this country. We have revived the idea of bringing back black, so to speak, bringing back the say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud from the 1960s, for example, bringing back the spirit of the Million Man March, the reason we assembled together, 2.5 million of us on that day, October 16th of 1995. We have revived the Nationalist Black Leadership Coalition because we had to put it to bed for a while because everyone abandoned ship once there was this possibility that they could support Obama in seeking to become the first person of African ancestry to reside in the White House. Now that 6-year malaise has brought people to a realization that that's not going to get us anywhere. In fact, it has moved us backward quite a bit from where we were before he ascended that throne, so to speak. Now they're beginning to ask these questions, as you're hearing from your audience. What can we do and how can we go about changing this? My challenge to your listeners is that they can join the Nationalist Black Leadership Coalition. They can assist us with establishing an entity to be referred to, I should say, as the President of Black America. And we're calling for minimally 1 million race-conscious black folk, the type of black folk who tend to call into your program are race-conscious black folk, or they wouldn't be listening to and calling into your program in particular. We're challenging these folks to come forward, join the organization, join this movement to assemble minimally 1 million race-conscious black voters, or black folks who are registered to vote or are willing to register to vote. But we don't register to vote in either one of the existing political parties, not the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party, not any of the other parties. We would want those 1 million or more race-conscious black voters to register no party affiliation, or NPA. And the importance of that, Brother Elliott, is that in some jurisdictions, an independent party exists as an actual party. So if you register in those jurisdictions as independent, you're actually registering for that party. We're calling upon race-conscious thinking. Bob referred to the term critical thinking. Black folks who can think critically to register no party affiliation so that we can organize ourselves into a force to be reckoned with in the realm of politics, so that we can say to any party or the representatives or the candidates of any party that is seeking the support of the black community, or at least that 1 or more million race-conscious black voters, here is what you have to be willing to do in order to be considered for the support that we have to offer, whether that support is our votes or whether that support is our financial contributions to your campaign. That is the only way that you can achieve any kind of quid pro quo. That's something for something from this system. The system is designed to function that way. And we as a people collectively have been conditioned to function otherwise, where it does not produce the intended results that participating in a partisan electoral political system such as we have here in America is designed and intended to work.
Brother Reg, Brother Ralph, you want to jump on in?
Yeah, Brother Amafika.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing well. The question I have, and some of this information I know, I just want you to put this out to the listening audience. You know, what's your thoughts behind the voices that are out there that are supposed to be speaking about strategies and issues pertaining to black people currently?
Well, brother, there are two different things that you mentioned, strategies and issues. A lot of people are talking about issues, and mostly we're lamenting the issues. Maulana Karenga has a way of saying it that I love, and I think I mentioned that on the program when I was on before. He says black folks tend to engage in reciting a litany of lost battles. In other words, we keep repeating the fact that we're losing, we lost this, we lost that, we got defeated on this, we got killed on that, et cetera, et cetera. And so what happens, we program ourselves without realizing that we're doing it to expect to lose. And quite frankly, we can program ourselves to such an extent that we actually invite defeat into our experience rather than concentrating on what it is that we claim that we want and then devising strategies and tactics by which to go about achieving the very thing that we say that we want. We have to be willing to be analytical. For example, there's a difference between strategy and tactics. And you hear people talking about things that at best can be construed to be tactics. But tactics are no good or of no value unless they are a part of a coherent overall strategy so that you achieve various independent and individual tactics as a process of moving toward the ultimate achievement of your goal, that is the goal of, in fact, your strategy. So we need to get about the business of being able to think, as Bob Law mentioned, in a way that is, in fact, critical. We can criticize those things that need to be criticized, separate those things from the things that we need to embrace. Not everything out there will benefit us, and not everything out there can stop us. We shouldn't look at anything as though it is an obstruction that cannot be overcome. In fact, if you remember, at one time there was a very popular motivational speaker, a black guy by the name of Les Brown. And one of the things that he said that I really liked, he defined the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. He said, a pessimist is a person who sees and constantly sees obstructions in the way of his opportunity. Something's interfering with his ability to take advantage of opportunities. On the other hand, an optimist is a person who is able to see opportunity in the very presence or existence of the obstruction. In other words, you got to figure out how to overcome or circumvent, get around, over, under, around, or through the obstruction, because that is in itself an opportunity to figure out a way to overcome whatever it is that someone has put in your way that is intended to obstruct your progress forward. We cannot accept defeat. We cannot continue to dwell on defeat and defeatism, because we will become defeatists. We need to become victorious in our thinking, but we cannot, as individuals, overcome a predicament that has been posed upon us as a collective. So we need to organize ourselves. We need to come together, not just in a rhetorical sense. We need to actually begin the process or extend the process where it's already been begun to organize ourselves into coherent, mutually supportive mechanisms, so that the things that we say we want to do, we actually invest our time, energy, and resources into doing those things.
And, brother, I have one other follow-up question. Now, I'm looking historically at different individuals and groups that did have strategy and did come away with their goals. Now, in reference to our situation, and when we're looking back historically, even in a time of peace, in reference to this system and who we're dealing with, we know that within the strategy, or I should be asking you, excuse me, within your strategy, is there a mechanism to teach our children that even when those gains or what we seek are obtained, that we're not ever to let our vision be lost or continue down with other aims, even in time of peace or even at times when we have gained what we want? Because I think that's been one of our problems. When we gain or obtain things, we let our guard down, and then we're back in the same condition, again.
A large part of the reason for that, good brother, is that we tend to have come to the point where we do things on an ad hoc basis rather than shall we say, an organized way of doing things, which is done by an organization. For example, right now, perhaps the only, maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't want to slight anybody, because there may be something out there that I simply don't know about or don't know enough about. But let's say the best known, shall we say, race-conscious organization today that is really an organization and is capable of conceptualizing strategies complete with various tactics to achieve the overall strategy, is the Nation of Islam. That is an organization. It's not just a group of people or an individual. Minister Farrakhan is not an individual just out there talking. He has an organization. He has discipline in that organization. That organization has structure. They have programs. They have components or units or divisions. So one of those divisions within the Nation of Islam, for example, is their education division or their education ministry, whichever they choose to call it. So anything that has to do with the education of the younger generation of people who are members of the Nation of Islam is done under the aegis or auspices of the Nation of Islam's own education department. Now, the rest of us don't have organizations, so we obviously don't have education departments. So what we do, when I say we, I'm just using myself as a part of the collective because I've done something different, I'm proud to say. But generally speaking, referring to the rest of us as opposed to people who have strong organizations such as the Nation of Islam, we tend to do things on an ad hoc basis, and basically what that means is we're calling on the system itself, the very system that is destroying our children educationally, since we're talking about education. We're calling on those people to somehow or other, we're trying to appeal to the better angels in those people so that they would, in fact, at our request and at our behest, do a better job of educating and developing our children. That ain't gonna happen for the simple reason that their whole purpose is to uplift and advance their own interests and to make as certain as they possibly can that nobody, least of all black children, are able to evolve into a position of being able to effectively compete with their children for what those folks are convinced are diminishing resources. Whether the resources are diminishing or not, they're convinced, or they have convinced themselves, that all of the resources on this earth are diminishing, and therefore the competition is increasing for who is going to get their lion's share of those resources. And anybody who's not capable of competing to get their share and hold on to it and defend it once to get it is going to lose out in this battle of survival on this planet, because these people are talking about eliminating human beings from the face of the earth. You've heard it said, for example, these people that are talking about global population control are saying that currently there's about 7.5 billion people on this earth, and they claim that because of diminishing resources, the earth within the foreseeable future is only going to be able to sustain and support maximally 1.5 billion people. Now, 1.5 billion from 7.5 billion leaves 6 billion that these people are suggesting have got to disappear or be disposed of somehow or other. And they're working on ways and means and schemes by which to bring that about. So since it is clear to us that these people don't plan for us to be around as a part of that 1.5 billion who will survive the process that they're putting in place now, then it's up to us to fend for ourselves. And we cannot do that as individuals dealing with things or attempting to address this thing on an ad hoc basis that does not, in the final analysis, bring us together. The bottom line, good brothers, is that we need to ask ourselves the question, anytime we raise an issue or someone else raises an issue with us, is number one, what is being done to achieve that particular objective or that particular goal? And number two, will the achieving of it bring about, or what effect will the achieving of it? In other words, even if we're successful, will that and can that possibly have an impact beneficial to us in changing the power relationship between black people and non-black people? Because ultimately that's what we've got to do. We've got to get ourselves out from under the heels of everybody else.
You're going to be hearing more about this movement on Time for Awakening, and you can get involved by, Brother Amafika, give out the information where folks can get in contact, emails, things of that nature, even your sites where they can look up more information.
Well, the two sites that I would encourage people to visit if they're interested in finding out more about this movement and this organization is Blackonomics, www.blackonomics.com. That is, of course, Baba Jim Klingman's website.
Yes.
Again, I'll repeat that, www.blackonomics.com, www.blackonomics.com. The other site that they can visit, of course, is my personal site, and that is www.amafika.com. That's Amafika spelled A-M-E-F-I-K-A, www.amafika.com. And we have been getting, thanks to you, brothers, quite a few responses. In fact, Brother Brown, C.W. Brown, that was called earlier on your program, is one of those folks who responded after I was on the previous time with you all, and has in fact joined up with the movement, and hopefully he will become one of our key representatives out on the West Coast for this movement. There is a solution to be had to everything that we talk about, but we can't simply satisfy ourselves by talking about it. We have got to organize to create or bring about the effectiveness of our approach to doing something about solving these problems. So www.blackonomics.com, that's Jim Klingman's website, www.amafika.com, my website. And we both have a plethora of information there, videotapes as well as written documents and information as to how to get involved with us in order to follow through and get additional information if you want more information before you make a decision. But, of course, we're mostly interested in people who feel that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired and are ready now to join something that has the potential to bring about the change that we all claim that we want. We are, in fact, geared up and designed for purposes of, in effect, taking our people to where our people claim that they want to go. All we need is the troops. We need troops. So join up, help yourself become one of those 1 million or more race-conscious black voters, since that's the issue. That's the hot item right now. Is this whole thing about voting and elections and whether or not people died so that we could get the right to vote, and what's the value of the vote, what should we get in exchange for voting, et cetera, et cetera. Sign up now, become a part of that, and I can guarantee you that 1 or more million race-conscious black folk who have the presence of mind and the intelligence and the foresight and the wisdom to hold on to their votes and hold on to their money until and unless some party and or its candidate comes to us and says, we want your support, we want your vote, and we want you to contribute to our campaign, and here is what we're willing to give you, or here's what we have to offer you. Or they, if they were wise, they would say, what is it that we have to offer to you or be willing to do for your group and your organization in order to earn your support? Then we can tell them the things that they need to do. And, for example, one of those things would be that they would have to be willing to support reparations for slavery. Now, any candidate or party that would have the audacity to say, as all of the candidates except one who started out running for their party's nominations and eventually the presidency the same time that Barack Obama did, all of them vehemently said that they would never support and would deny any support to reparations. The only one that said that he would support reparations was Dennis Kucinich from the state of Ohio at that time. He's no longer even in the Congress. So we can do this, folks, but you've got to be serious and you've got to be willing to do something other than simply express frustration and anger about what these people have done to us and what they're continuing to do to us, because I can assure you, especially in the wake of these election results, things are going to get a whole lot worse for us before they start to get better.
I want to thank you for joining us this evening, Brother Amafika, and the listening audience will be hearing from you again very soon.
Very good, my brother. It's a pleasure hearing you boys, you brothers on here and talking to the folks and bringing this particular outlet for people to express themselves and to discover what it is that they can actually do to bring about the change they say they want. Thank you again.
Peace. We'll be right back to wind things up.
Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies. Everybody is here.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
All Insurance Incorporated, an African-American owned and operated insurance agency in business for over 20 years, located at 231 Southeastern Road in Glenside, PA, with other offices in Germantown and West Philadelphia. Call now for commercial insurance quotes, homeowners insurance quotes, automobile insurance quotes, notary and tax services, representing over 15 major A-rated insurance companies, offering a discount on all notary services when you call in for a free quote. Call this number, 215-885-2444. That number is 215-885-2444. 215-885-2444. All Insurance Incorporated.
Before your roof roof becomes unruly, call Dooley. Dooley Brothers, specializing in shingle, rubber roofs, gutters, downspouts, and vinyl sidings. Call for your free estimate today. 215-224-3882. That's 215-224-3882. Dooley Brothers Roofing, the roofing experts you can trust. That number again, 215-224-3882. 215-224-3882. Before your roof becomes unruly, call Dooley.
Antiquity to the present, our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m. with your hosts, Elliot and Rick. Welcome back to Time for an Awakening. And Brother Reg, Brother Ralph, before we wind up this evening, we got one call that's been on hold. You want to spend a few more minutes?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, let's take it to. Oh boy, I lost it. I lost the call. Well, if they call back before we get off the air, then we can take that call. I'm sorry, caller. I lost your call. If you got maybe a couple of minutes, if you can dial right back. You know, it was interesting discussion tonight with Brother Rob Law and the special guest, Brother Amafika Gayuka, that joined us in this conversation. You know, okay, they're back. Let's take this before we get off the air this evening. 215 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brother Elliot, how are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Hey, Brother Ralph. Hi, Brother Reg. How y'all brothers doing?
Hey, how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. I knew you pressed me time. I said be real quick, Brother Elliot. Yeah, y'all brothers batting 1,000 tonight. Y'all Hank Aaron and Barry Bonds combined, man. Brother Amadika, Brother Bob Law, y'all brothers batting 1,000. I enjoyed it. You know, both of the brothers tonight, as well as the callers. Brother Ralph, when Ralph spoke a few minutes ago, when Brother Mo was on, Brother Ralph, you made an excellent point because, you know, me and Elliot was talking the other day. Our people are so in such a slave mentality. Like one of the elders in our community and stuff, she was, after the devil won on the Democrat side in the governor's election, she said, I just thank the Lord our prayers been answered. I'm saying to myself, because you voted for one white man over another one, you still going for that benevolent white person to save you. I mean, it's so sad. And the sad part, brothers, is this. Just like with Obama, you'll have black people, even though black people were the cause of winning, because, you know, you got the large black population in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, black people won't demand nothing out this guy. They'll be just like they said with Obama. When you try to push the black agenda through Wolf, the first thing the Negro's going to jump out and say, Brother Ralph, well, you know, you can't expect Wolf to be governor for black people. He's governor for everybody. Even though we voted for him 80% strong, well, they did, because I didn't vote for the bum anyway. But I'm just saying, they won't demand nothing out of him. And like Brother Amadika just said, they won't put no coalition together, no demands, no nothing to say, look, if you want our support, this is what you're going to have to do. We want reparations. I mean, they won't demand nothing. So while they sitting back talking stupid about he's the governor for everybody, Wolf going to do just what all the other white men do and black men like Obama do, Brother Ralph and Reggie and Elliot. What he's going to do, he's going to support Jewish interests, gay and lesbian interests, even some of our Latino brothers and sisters. He'll support them. Everybody be getting something from that devil except black people. And we still be talking stupid. I mean, we just say, we get such a slave-like mentality. We give all these people our blind support and don't demand nothing out of it. I mean, it's just sad, man. It's just a sad state of affairs. And when you play Dr. King, Elliot, thought a little while ago, when Dr. King and Malcolm, when they was talking about our economics and letting people come into the community, taking control of our economics, and Dr. King said, boycott this thing and these things, they could have been talking today. And it's sad to believe that these brothers were saying this 50-something years ago. If you could transform them in the year 2014, and their comments would be just as relevant today, actually more relevant today than it was probably back in the 60s or whatever. You know, so just go to show you it's the lack of black leadership that we have is why our people continually stay in this wretched condition, because all them niggas want to do, like Brother Mo said a few minutes ago, all they want to do, these shrines and masons, all they want to do is be buffers between us and the white slave master. That's why it's so hard to get with him, and because you got them Negroes in between. But it's going to take a fight, like you say, Brother Ralph. Some of these Negroes you're going to be able to talk to and be able to, you know, but a lot of them, like Brother Mo said, you ain't going to be able to, you know, some of them Negroes just have to be dealt with. Because some of these Negroes you can't reason with them, because them Negroes, they are entrenched in this white society. As long as they got that white man with his foot up there behind, as long as they get a few crumbs off the white man's table, they not going to rock the boat. They not going to try to change the system for the better for their people or fight to put their own black people forward. As long as they're getting their little time from the white man's table, they're happy. And this is what you're up against. So some of them niggas, male and female, at some point, they're going to have to be dealt with. I mean, it's as clear as that, because we can't keep on going the same way we're going, because we're doing disservice to our future generation. None of us, we all know our mortality. Brother Ralph, Reggie, Elliot, none of us, myself included, we're not going to be on this earth physically forever. So we got our children and nieces and nephews coming behind us. We want to leave a world back for them where they can have a better world to live in. We can't have that world for them. We can continually to sit back on our behinds and let these Negroes continually destroy our people and destroy the future for our people. So I mean, we got to look to the future, and our future is not going to be good if these Negroes is not dealt with at some point for their treachery and their traitors and their traitorous ways.
Well,
so
Joe,
I mean, we got a battle on our hands.
Well, Joe, before we wind up to see, go ahead, Ralph. You was going to say something?
No. I said yes, we do. Like, we have to find out why we're the only nationality of people that boycott our own businesses and take pride in boycotting our own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
We have, so we know, but that's why I'm grateful for Brother Bob Law, Brother Amafika, Dr. Kleeman. These brothers have come up with a bona fide solution. And I wanted to say something to Brother Amafika before he hung up, because we're not looking to take everybody with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We don't want some of them.
That's right.
So that's the we're only looking for those who want real change, not that Obama type change. We want those who want real change. So those people that I know Brother Mo was frustrated at, getting mad at, we don't want them. Let them go on ahead and be happy. And just vote and march and protest and vote for the next traitor. We're moving to a new paradigm, and that's what we're looking for, man. We're looking for people of like minds.
I agree with that, Brother Ralph. And I'll say these last couple of things before I get off. See, and like Brother X was saying, and that's why I respectfully disagree, but X said everything I agree with except for the part, but we got the boycott is still an effective weapon, always will be. But like you say, Brother Ralph, we should be boycotting ourselves, boycott these racist white businesses, the institutions by people like the Cox brothers. We can boycott them because, believe me, like Brother Mo said, with Misgivings Day coming up and Christmas and them, if we stop buying all that filth and stuff on them days, believe me, don't tell me they want to have an impact on white Americans. We are the cog that makes it go.
It definitely will. Yeah, because it couples with what Brother Bob Law was saying, and also Dr. King in that speech.
That's right.
We have to couple any type of protest with action.
Exactly.
And withdrawing our dollars.
Exactly.
We make this system go. Our people make this system go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Billy.
No, I just said the dollars that our people spend, over $1 trillion of spending power, makes this system go.
Oh, no doubt. No, it's no getting around that, brother. And we withhold our dollars, we can have an impact. And see, and brother, I close with these last couple of comments. See, and these people are so wicked. Like you said, the results of Tuesday's election, that was white America sending a message to black people. Of course, they're gonna backfire. And them devils gonna get the brunt of it. They always do when they vote out of their bigotry and hatred for black people. Them white racist Republicans who they voted for gonna sock it to them. So I can't wait till they get their just comings. But the point I'm saying is that these people in the Congress and the Senate, these bigots, both Democrat and Republican, they have no intentions of being fair to black people, and they are so hateful and wicked, they don't even want other people to help you. Like Brother Exman, he was saying about how Obama was part of that clique or that whatever you want to call it, that killed Brother Gaddafi. Because see, Brother Gaddafi was a brother that was helping out people of color. He helped out people in Angola. He helped Nelson Mandela out when he was in prison. Took care of his family. He gave Minister Farrakhan $5 million. The United States government wouldn't let Minister Farrakhan, bring the money to America. I mean, so not only are they not going to help you, they don't want nobody else to help you. See, that's why it's incumbent upon us, Brother Ralph, like you said, to get like-minded people that think like us. Them other niggas, they got that kind of mindset. You got to leave them alone because they will destroy our people. We have to keep with like-minded people, like you said, James Clement, one of my heroes, the Bob Laws of the world. People that think like that, like Barbara Ahmadika, they got that black race consciousness. These are the people that we have to get with, because like as I tell Brother Elliot all the time, Brother Ralph and Brother Reggie, the title for y'all show is apropos, Time for the Awakening. We have tried to do our best, person by person, to raise the consciousness, wake our people up. It's time for the awakening. Some of our people are in the slumber; they're asleep. We got to wake our people up. We have to do it. I think we have to do it one person at a time. It might be long and tenuous, but this is what we got to do if we're going to ever achieve the things that we're supposed to achieve as a people. It's that simple. It's that clear.
Joe, I'm gonna let you go with this this statement.
Mm-hmm.
As men, we don't want to be taken advantage of in our private life, on your job. If you're raising children, you don't want your young men or young girls to be taken advantage of by anybody. You want them to be able to stand up for themselves. And I'm saying that to say this. When some of our people that really didn't understand what was going on voted for Barack Obama in 2008, and he went in under the auspices of change you can believe in.
Mm-hmm.
He told Black America, I think in 2010 when he went to the NAACP dinner or whatever, to quit whining, take off your bedroom slippers.
That's right.
And all types of other stuff. Ralph can recite that better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had a strange look on some of the black folks' face. In fact, some caucus members was offended by it.
That's correct.
But you heard him the other day, and I hope some of these black folks, it's almost like you're throwing a cold glass of water in somebody's face so they can wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I hope our people wake up, because after that election results, the president came on television and published reports and said, America, I hear you loud and clear.
That's what he said, yep.
Now, what America is he talking about?
He definitely ain't talking
because
about
he definitely
America,
ain't talking about his constituents, the people that voted for him 96%. They didn't vote for that. They wasn't pushing that. So when he says America, I hear you loud and clear, if that don't wake our people up, I don't know what will.
Hey, Brother Elliot, can I say this real quick? Again, like you say, Brother Elliot, he was talking clearly to racists, and I ain't got no problem saying it. He was talking to racists.
He was talking to Massa.
Thanks, Brother Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. Just cut through the chase. Thanks, Brother Ralph. And see, now you notice how tough he talked and nasty talked to the black people at the NAACP thing. But when that white bigot from South Carolina, remember Congressman Joe Wilson, stood right up before the nation at the State of the Union address a few years ago and called Barack Obama a liar in front of the whole world, the whole Congress and Senate, and that nigga didn't open up his damn mouth. But he can get him up there and talk nasty to black people, and these niggas can continually make excuses for him. Well, he you can't expect him. He'd be very unpresidential like if he got really ignorant with these Republicans or whatever. They make every excuse for this cowardly Negro. I mean, he only gets a little damned up when it comes to black people. Like I told Brother Ralph, Brother Elliot and Reg, Bill O'Reilly, the old bigot over there on that conservative station, I don't want to mention their name, he sat up there about a couple years ago and said right on his show, I like to smack Michelle Obama right in her face. And this Negro guy, right on Bill O'Reilly's show, about 2 weeks later, Barack Obama and Bill O'Reilly interviewed him, and they laughing and chuckling up like they best of friends. But that devil just said he liked to smack his wife in the face. Boy, man, I thought that, Ralph, I just get so Ellen and I just get tired of these Negroes and their cowardly ways. I get tired of the Barack Obama Kool-Aid drinkers that make every excuse up for this Negro when he pumps out every time he does, but only get his stand up like Malcolm say, you get your gorilla suit on when it comes to black people. I get so tired of these Negroes and they're oh man, let me get out of here. Let me go. Let me let y'all brothers go. Man.
Have a good evening, Joe.
Yeah,
you
Joe,
too.
The solution to that, man, is let him go.
Ralph, interesting program today, and we're just going to move forward. We got to. The program is called Time for Awakening, and it's time for our people to definitely wake up. I want to thank everybody for listening to the program this evening. Lively discussion as always, and we'll be back next week, Lord willing, to continue on this path towards an awakening. Peace.
If you're driving through